Hey folks, Jackdaw here. Is this Fable reboot actually Fable? That's the real question, isn't it? Can a studio known for open world driving games capture the je ne sais quoi of one of the most beloved, most distinctly British RPGs ever made? Can they balance whimsy with satire, fairy tales with fart jokes, and heroic destiny with the ability to buy every single pub in town and raise property taxes out of sheer pettiness? Well, at long last, we have a small look at Fable's pre-alpha gameplay, and in just 50 seconds of footage, Playground Games has managed to reignite my deep-seated need to overanalyze every single frame. Of course, there's a catch. Fable has now been delayed to 2026. While that might feel like an eternity away, let's be honest, the game has already spent 14 years gathering dust in a crypt somewhere inside Lionhead's abandoned offices. Another year isn't gonna kill us. So today, let's break this all down. How alive is Albion? How does this combat feel? And most importantly, how many chickens can we actually kick? Right away, we're dropped into a sweeping, rolling hill shot of a medieval city. If it looks familiar, that's because we've seen it before in the 2024 trailer. The architecture is whimsical, high fantasy with a tiny touch of Tudor England, full of wizard towers, timber-framed shops, and winding stone streets. But the big question, where and when are we? To me, this feels firmly medieval, more Fable 1 than the industrial setting of Fable 3. And so could this city be a reimagining of Bowerstone, or is it a brand new city entirely, perhaps even inspired by it? Either way, this place seems alive. Hopefully alive enough for me to buy a huge house, ruin the local property market, and then spend a solid 10 minutes regretting my mortgage decisions over a couple of pints. The scene then shifts to nighttime. Warm light spills from tavern windows, street lanterns flicker. Villagers stagger home after one too many tankards of whatever the Fable equivalent of Strongbow is. This to me is a distinctly Fable scene, that fusion of idyllic fantasy with then your miserable British nightlife. Next comes the perfect, most Albion shot of all, a quaint little countryside town straight out of Oakvale's cottagecore playbook. You've got thatched hay rooftops, wooden market stalls, flowers tumbling over timber frames, and a single chicken pecking at cobblestones, blissfully unaware of what's coming. Biggest question mark of all, talked about it last time, but we have a signpost with a contract pinned to it. Is this a quest board, a bounty system, or property ownership once more showing its return? Beyond these establishing locations, the Forza Tech engine is doing some serious heavy lifting here. The volumetric lighting, the mist clinging to the trees, the way the lantern glow pools into the cobblestone streets, it's all stunning. And if Playground's past work on the Forza franchise tells us anything, it's that their open world expertise is going to shine here. Next we have the biggest confirmation I've seen so far, horses. Our hero approaches a horse in a forest, mounts up, and then takes off across Albion's rolling green hills. A breathtaking moment, but one that also confirms world traversal. Now Fable has never been a massive open world RPG akin to Skyrim. It's always had a structured, handcrafted feel, more Zelda than Bethesda. But the addition of horses now suggests a larger scale than we've ever seen before, which raises now some interesting questions. How big is Albion now? Are we looking at fewer fast travel locations in favour of more open exploration? And most importantly, at least to me, where is our dog? Because if Fable doesn't let me ride into battle on horseback with my loyal mutt running alongside me, I'm gonna have some very serious strong words with Playground Games. The next sequence is all about the combat. Fable's combat historically has always been fast, a bit arcadey, and of course absurd. But now this actually looks tactile, like there's a strategy to it. Playground Games seems to be leaning into parrying, dodging, and actual combos. We start with what I can only describe as the most Fable boss imaginable, a giant, horrifying chicken. Our hero blocks an attack, dodges backwards twice, pirouettes out of the way, and then unleashes a flurry of sword strikes. There's an actual rhythm to this. Then we see Hobbs getting absolutely destroyed as the hero uses a two-handed maul, sending them flying across a forest clearing. And then we have a darkened town square, watching the hero parry a bandit's attack, and then they are immediately open to counter that bandit with a heavy strike. Most excitedly, and perhaps the most telling combat encounter, we have a werewolf battle inside a cave. And this is where magic finally enters the fray. The hero throws a fireball engulfing the werewolf in flames. And now I am starting to see the Witcher 3 comparisons really kick in. Because yes, this combat does remind me a lot of The Witcher 3. The whole pirouettes, parrying, and of course, magic element there. It's got that similar animation style. And that makes sense because Jez Corden confirmed that when he saw early alpha footage of Fable last year, he did mention about dodging, parrying, executions, and real-time weapon switching, all a part of this system and akin to The Witcher, because Playground has indeed hired multiple developers from The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077, including CDPR's former combat designer Paul Capalla. So while the combat has certainly evolved to the standards of a game coming out in 2026, to me this still does feel like Fable, because immediately before this intense combat scene, we get a perfect example of Fable's signature nonsensical humour. We have a cinematic of our hero luring this werewolf out of its den as they prepare a full English breakfast. Yeah, you heard that right. Granted, we only see the sausages in this current trailer, but Jez Corden did state last year that he saw our hero luring this werewolf with a proper full English breakfast. The whole shebang. Sausage, eggs, and hopefully beans. And that to me is just peak British nonsense, peak Fable. So as long as we keep going in that direction, I'm sure we're in for a swimming time. Now, one of the biggest questions I've seen so far after this reveal is how deep is the character customization going to go? I've seen this raised by new kinds of fans who've never played Fable before, as well as OGs who now are wondering if, for the first time in a Fable game, we will actually be able to properly customize our character from the ground up. So far, all official marketing has shown a female protagonist, who I think fits Fable's cheeky, rustic, backwater energy perfectly. She to me looks like the kind of hero who would chug a few pints, kick a chicken, and then fart in a noble's face without hesitation. However, I have seen some talk raising concerns about whether a male hero option will exist and how much customization we're actually going to get. Now thankfully, and I mentioned this in my last Fable video, Jez Corden, when he witnessed an alpha preview of Fable last year, confirmed that yes, there are both male and female protagonist options included. The male one just hasn't been showcased in trailers yet. But if we're talking about deeper customization for our new hero, well, Fable has never really had a proper character creator. You choose between male or female, and then as you played the game, your choices shaped your appearance. For example, magic use covered you in glowing mana veins. Being very good gave you a literal halo. Alternatively, being evil gave you demon horns and red eyes. Overeating made you fat. Getting injured too often gave you permanent scars. And if you were particularly disgusting, flies would swarm around you. And you could also dye every single outfit accordingly with a variety of colours. It was Fable's own unique brand of character customization, one that fit the world perfectly in terms of its humour and of course its consequence. Now of course that was Lionhead Studios' spin on Fable originally. Will Playground Games bring this system back in full? That's the real question. If they are serious about capturing Fable's true DNA, this morality-based transformation system, that needs to return. Sure, throw in plenty of hairstyles and clothing options, but I want consequences for my choices to be reflected in my character's appearance. That's what makes Fable's customization feel so unique. A world that actually reacts to you. Now at the same time, this is a reboot. This is a new studio taking the helm. So could Playground Games actually want to give us a full character customization system for our brand new hero, while it's not traditionally something something we've seen in Fable, it would be a brilliant prospect, and it would allow you for the first time ever to truly create whatever kind of hero you wanted to right from the start. We'll have plenty of time to see what the reality is for this one, but then we have the final sequence of this trailer. Our hero stands in a sunlit field, the golden light washing over the fantasy landscape. A solitary chicken pecks at the grass. Our hero takes a step forward. The chicken senses what is coming. It tries to flee, but it is too slow. With one mighty boot, our hero kicks the chicken skyward, sending it soaring into the horizon. And in that moment, everyone watching who knows what Fable is all about knew exactly what was about to happen. So does this Fable reboot actually feel like Fable? Well, that's hard to say, of course. It's a year away, and this is only 50 seconds of pre-alpha footage, but based on what we've seen and referencing the previous trailers as well, with comedians Richard Ayoade and Matt King's respected trailers as I featured Dave the Giant and Humphrey the retired hero, the answer to me is a tentative yes. The humour is here. The world looks purely stunning. The combat has weight to it, and there seems to be an actual strategy to it this time. Now it does look a bit janky and some of the animations may seem a bit off, but let's re-emphasize that this is of course pre-alpha footage, and with that I say let Playground Games cook. This to me is looking really exciting. However, there are still plenty of questions I do have. What about the RPG mechanics of this one? How deep is the character customization going to go? Is Albion and its people going to react to our choices like before? Also, how big is Albion going to be now in terms of now having horse riding as a feature? Is this going to be a fully streamlined open world game, kind of akin to what Playground Games have done in the past? It would make sense, but still quite different to what traditional Fable has done. And in that same breath, is a year going to be enough time if this is considerably pre-alpha gameplay footage currently? Are we looking at most likely a Q4 release window? Hard to say. I'm excited and I'm eager to hear more. I'm going to let Playground Games cook and continue to cover this entire reboot on my channel. What do you think? Are you excited? Cautiously optimistic? Worried? What did you think about this alpha gameplay? Any other highlights that I haven't caught myself? What kind of character would you like to create? And of course, most importantly, how many chickens do you reckon you'll be kicking in this Fable reboot? For the latest on Fable and of course other related fantasy RPGs, you are already in the right place. I have been Jackdaw, and until the next one, I should go. Whoa, 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 whoa.